So when we look at food webs and ecological pyramids, we use these to see or to study how energy and matter move through an ecosystem. And they move two different ways. Energy is going to be transferred from organism to organism in our food chains or food webs. When you had a glass of orange juice this morning, the energy from the orange trees that made that orange juice was in your glass of orange juice, and when you drank it, it was transferred to you. If you look on food labels, it tells you how many calories are in things. That's a measurement of energy. So energy is transferred. Matter is going to be cycled and reused. So in middle school, you should have talked about the water cycle. It evaporates from a lake, goes into the clouds, rains down through precipitation. Around, around, around. We're going to talk about next week carbon and nitrogen cycles, how those molecules move through our ecosystems. Today we're going to focus on the energy portion, how energy is transferred. Energy moves between what's called trophic levels. And for our first flap, you have one that's, what is a trophic level? No, we're going to right underneath it. Don't glue the whole thing down. We need to be able to write underneath it. So our definition of a trophic level trophic level is going to be a position occupied by an organism in a food chain or a food web. Those are from yesterday. Today's are over here. Does everyone have the definition? So our organisms here on the front, we're going to label their trophic level. So I have some plants. What do we call plants? Producer. So we can label our plants the producers. That's their trophic level. The rabbit eats the plants. What are we going to call the rabbit? Consumer, but it's the first one, so we call it the primary consumer. And then what will our owl be? What comes after primary? Secondary consumer. After the owl, we have mushrooms. They're the decomposers. So we're having to wait for the owl to die for our mushrooms. Mushrooms are decomposers. Now, we look at our picture. Grass, is it eating the sun? No. It's showing energy flow. The arrows show energy flow. I have students that like to tell me that the arrow shows me eating things. It's not showing who's eating who, it's showing energy flow. Energy is going from the sun to the plants. Energy is going from the plants to the bunny rabbit. The arrows show energy flow. Do we have that? Okay, next you're going to need the food web, and we're going to glue the entire food web down and write some information next to it. On our food web, we're going to label our trophic levels. Because we don't have as much space, I'm going to abbreviate. So what trophic level are wildflowers and grass? Producers. So I'm just going to call them a P for producer. Here we have another rabbit and a mouse. They're eating the grass. So what are they? Primary consumers. I'm I'm going to label them with a 1 for primary consumer. So P equals producer, 1 equals primary consumer. We're going to look at the rabbit first. Rabbit, the energy flows to the hawk, so what does that make the hawk? Secondary. We also have energy going to the snake, so what does that make the snake? Secondary. And if we look at our mouse, mouse going to the hawk, hawk is still a secondary, mouse to the snake, still secondary. If we look at the snake though, our snake is being consumed by the hawk. We have energy flow going there. So, what number do you think we'll put there? The 3. Three is a tertiary consumer. Oh, something very important to remember, especially what started with our labs. Some of our organisms may occupy some organisms may occupy more than one trophic level in a food web. So like our hawk had more than one. It was a secondary consumer and a tertiary consumer. In the lab that we'll be starting on today, you'll be building a food web. Later on, when we identify levels, you're going to have some that turn out to be a quaternary or 4th level consumer or quintenary or 5th level. So we'll just use the numbers 4, 5 going up, but you will have things that are multiple levels. Okay, last little bit, we still need to talk about our ecological pyramids. Again, we're just going to glue it down enough so that we can create a flap. When it comes to our pyramids, we'll look at 3 different pyramids. Energy pyramid is going to show us how much energy at each level. Biomass is going to be the weight. Pyramid of numbers is going to be a population count. So 1,000 plants, 50 mice, 5 snakes, 1 hawk. It shows numbers. have this. Right under our flap. What all three of these have in common? An ecological pyramid. All of these pyramids, all of our ecological pyramids, they show the relationship between producers and consumers at trophic levels in an ecosystem. If you look at this first one, bottom is always producers, followed by first level or primary consumers, secondary, tertiary, and it could go higher and higher. Typically, land food webs stop at about 3 at tertiary. Ocean food webs become more complex. Ocean's a lot bigger habitat. So why a pyramid shape? Our greatest amount of energy, biomass, or number of organisms, so those were our 3 pyramids. So our greatest number, whether it's energy, biomass, or just population number, how many organisms, is located at the base, at the bottom, and it decreases as you go up the pyramid. So pyramids are biggest at the bottom, smallest at the top. All right, a word that I've said a couple times that we need to define, biomass. Biomass is the total amount of living tissue of all organisms at a given trophic level. If we're trying to figure out the biomass of all the producers, say just in the field back behind the school, we would have to go and pull up all the plants, all the trees, all the bushes, everything that's a producer, and stick it on a giant scale and weigh it. One last thing to talk about, and then we'll be done with notes, is our 10% rule for energy. When we look at energy, we can make a prediction of how much energy is going to move on from one trophic level to the next. Only 10% of the energy available at each level is passed to the next level. The other 90%, what's left over, is lost as heat through organisms' metabolism. So as they process food and go through cellular respiration, they lose that other energy as heat. So if we were to draw just a simple little pyramid, and producers had 500 kilojoules of energy, how many would the primary consumers have at the next level? 50, just 10%. Secondary consumers would have how much? 5. So we would go to 15 and then 5 as we move up our pyramid. And now we're all done with the notes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you may.